Don, we ran into each other at Diamonds in the Rough showcase during the CCMAs in Saskatoon. What was your experience like that weekend?
Man, CCMAs, it was my first one. I've been in the business for quite a long time, but haven't been able to catch CCMA Weekend in all my time. But I finally got there, and I was blown away by not just the opportunity to play music and see great music, but just the camaraderie and friendship. And I mean, the country scene is as good as it gets here in Canada. Seriously, I love all the music, all the acts. Everybody just got real mad love for each other, and I definitely felt it that weekend.
Last year, another big year for you. You were nominated for Aboriginal Album of the Year at the Juno Awards. How did it feel getting that recognition at such a high level?
The Junos, that's kind of like the Grammys of Canada, so it was a pretty big deal for sure. Nominated alongside Buffy St. Marie in that category. It's pretty huge. But also, the other one, the adult contemporary one, was felt really good too. It nominated, alongside Johnny Reid, Jan Arden, Diana Krall, and the tenors. Just, couldn't believe that my name was up there with, heavyweights like that.
Don Amero joining CFWE this afternoon. Don, what's been your biggest challenge to date, either musically or personally?
The biggest challenge, man, honestly, it's the music scene is changing every week, it seems. So staying on top of that has always been a bit of a challenge. But the other part of it is I think it's just being my own worst critic, honestly. I think, we're, as individuals, we're almost always hardest on ourselves. And so it's just sort of like getting past those internal struggles. But I've always been a glass half full type of guy, so I've always been able to sort of rise above it and not let that sort of take me down too far. So I've always kept my head up through even the hardest of times.
Of course, Don, you're a young Métis man. What role does your Indigenous roots play in your life and your music?
Well, in my life, it's definitely something that I've grown as much as my music career has grown, because I think both of them sort of were born around the same time. Even though I was born an Indigenous guy, Métis from Winnipeg, I didn't have a lot of connection with my roots. But once I started getting into music and looking more into who I was as a person, you're trying to find your identity as an artist. With that, you want to find your identity as a person, as an adult. And so for me, the music kind of goes hand in hand with my walk as an Indigenous guy. And for me, it's hugely important to kind of connect with who I am and that spirit of, the Indigenous people and connected with the land. But even beyond that is how can I also be an encouragement and an inspiration to the next generation of Indigenous, youth growing up, that they could also wear their Indigenous roots with pride and keep their heads held high and grow into the future of what is in this country and in the world. And I think not just because of what I'm doing, but many of us are working hard to make sure that we can be an inspiration to the young people.
Most of your songs, Don, tell real-life stories and powerful messages. When you write music, what do you hope people take away from it?
The biggest thing for sure is definitely being real and not sort of sugarcoating things. I've always been the type that, my music is not terribly different than much that's out there. I think it's unique enough that it's and good enough that it stands its own. But the thing that any artist sort of should bring to the table is their own identity and who they are. And that's what I really strive to do as an artist, is just bring my music to the table and my stories to the table. And that's, no other person can live the life of Don Amero. So I tend to sing about that. And yeah, for me, it's a really important part of it, because I think it just then tells an individual story rather than trying to tell somebody else's.
I know there may be a few, Don, but what's been the highlight of your career so far?
There's so many. There's honestly, my career in music has been so blessed with so many great things. And, I say this all the time, probably in every interview, but it's, I've gained basically one fan at a time in this career. And so that's been a highlight, is just sort of making so many friends in the world of music and beyond, and just, the fans that have been so supportive. But the highlights have to be, the awards are great, the nominations are amazing, it's a nice pat on the back, but the biggest thing for me is knowing that a song that I put out there affected somebody in their life and made their day better. I can live 1,000 lifetimes, with that, knowing that the stuff that I've put out there is making other people's lives better.
Don Amero joining CFWE. Don, in terms of projects, what's coming up for you in the next year?
Yeah, well, so we got the new single out, Church Now. I think you guys have that, right?
Yeah, we just added that. Good song.
Yeah, thanks, man. So that's out now. We're sort of putting a lot of eggs in that basket right now for the new single. So we're working on another album. The album hopefully will be together by spring of 2018, fingers crossed. And I always do a little Christmas show here on the prairies called Amero Little Christmas. So we do that fun little family-friendly Christmas show. And then, honestly, I think from there it's just sort of, doing as many good gigs as we possibly can and finding the people that want to join the team and help me do what I do better.
Let's talk about that brand new song of yours, Don. It is called Church. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so Church is, as I talk about sort of bringing my own story to the table, Church is actually a song I didn't write. It's the first song that I've ever released that I didn't have any part of the writing. But my big connection came, the first time I heard this song, I was kind of thinking this is not a song for me. And my manager said, listen again. And when I listened to it kind of with a different set of ears on it, as you'd say, and I was thinking a lot about my dad, who I lost last year. He was 57 years old, and thinking pretty heavily about him. And when I heard it the second time, I really thought a lot about him and remembered so many times in my life when Dad said, when he was amongst the trees or out near the water, out in the wilderness, he felt that's when he was closest to the divine and closest to God. And so that's really what the song's about, is somebody who's, their great outdoors is their church. And when I connected with the song in that way, I knew that I could do it authentically and make it my own and really honor my dad in that way.
Way out in the woods, nobody there, middle of nowhere.